you. Okay. All right. Okay, we've got 5:30, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the East Dundee Committee of the Whole meeting dated June 6, 2022. Catherine, will you take the roll?
Trustee Mahoney. Here. Trustee Coonsey.
Present.
Trustee Britton.
Here.
Trustee Saviano.
Here.
Trustee Triber. Trustee Sauter.
Here.
And President Lino.
Here. Okay, that'll take us to public comment on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the board on an agenda item? No? Okay, great, seeing none. Then we'll take us right to general business. First one being video gaming guidelines. So,
I want to quickly say, would it be possible to move item B up before A? Just because I think that's going to be a very quick discussion. I want to make sure we have room for the
Okay.
second one, but
Yeah,
all
I
right,
agree.
we'll
Agreed.
go
do
with
we need a
Second.
motion to talk about these things in a committee of whole meeting?
No, not if everyone is.
Yeah.
agreeing.
Agreed.
All right,
Makes sense.
We'll go with item B first.
I mean, is anybody opposed to the plan?
No. Nope.
No.
No.
Okay,
Do it for a month, and then it's getting repainted
for a month, yeah.
in July anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a new decal.
Cool.
And, yeah, it's good that we're getting the new sign, yeah.
Well, this wasn't on, I didn't see this, what did this entail, can I ask?
This is the painting, the Arts Council's gonna paint the chair, the big chair.
Oh, that, right, got it. Okay, we talked about that, got it. Okay, good enough, good enough. And do we also need a new decal? We talked about that as well?
Yes.
It was all in the.
Yeah.
The new
the
decals,
brief.
being ordered, and then it's going to be installed after the chair is repainted.
Okay.
And actually, Phil and I were talking about maybe the Arts Council could make a recommendation on a color for the chair.
Okay.
When we
Mhm.
repaint it.
Okay.
The other color is fine if that's what is
Right.
recommended, but if there's a more modern color that folks want,
Facelift kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just quick, can we order more than one decal? I mean, is
Sure.
it like a?
It would make sense to
Yeah,
do that
we're
since
probably
we're
gonna
going
need
to have to
them in
replace
the
it.
future, or if we need them for other reasons, we might as well just have them on hand if they're not too expensive, so
I agree.
we think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Easy.
Thank you.
Who's gonna do the work?
Arts Council,
Oh, you just gonna grab the brush yourselves?
pretty much.
All right. I got some leftover gray paint from the building itself, if you're
Awesome.
interested. And
Thank
actually,
you.
I think I got some of it.
Oh, I was wondering about that because they need to touch up where the new water fountain is in.
Oh,
That was
okay,
there.
'cause
They
took
put
it
the new
out.
water
Yeah,
fountain
yeah,
in,
yeah.
so now
Oh.
there's blank spots.
Oh,
So
man,
you
I'm
got
glad I didn't pitch
Do
it.
you know where it is? Do you
Yeah.
know where it is, Phil?
That's on our list of.
Oh, he's all over it
Alright.
already.
Here are a couple holes to fill with plumbing.
Yeah, yeah.
Shoot through and then we have to paint.
Oh, I gotta
It
get
looks
that
great.
stuff, if it left over.
Yeah, if you have any extra.
Yeah, I do, definitely, it's.
Can at least get the color matched even if
Right,
it's.
and then I've also
Yeah,
got some of
slightly
the
different.
plum,
Yeah.
the trim around the windows, and then I got some of the cream colored as well, so let me know. I got.
Yeah,
Cool. Good, glad I didn't pitch that. It's only been 2 years.
yeah. About it in on Friday.
Yeah.
Finished. So-
Yeah, right, okay. I'll get that to you then. All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussions? No? So I guess we can go to video gaming. Erica, you want to run with this one?
Sure. So, as we started discussing the last meeting and briefly a little bit before that, when we had the application from Spartan, there's just been some desire to have an open conversation about video gaming in the community and what might make sense if there was an interest in putting in any kind of guidelines or restrictions on how the operation goes in establishments. So we did have the conversation, which we still need to finish, regarding whether or not there's an interest in allowing it at convenience stores, but then there's also the option of, right now we don't have any restrictions on, say, for example, number of machines, how those machines get placed. You know, we have the state of Illinois has a minimum set of restrictions on how things get sort of separated, but we could, if we wanted to, add additional ones. Some of the more interesting ones are whether or not there's a waiting period for a business, so that a business has to be established for potentially a year before they get gaming, so that their business is a viable business and it's not just being held up by the cash flow from video gaming. There's also the option of doing, now I totally lost my train of thought. But pretty much, we have, in your packet, some options to review if there's an interest, if there's also the option of not doing anything and continuing as we have been in the past and reviewing on a case-by-case basis. We did look at the machines per capita, and so that was in an earlier packet. I should have included that again in this one, but that was in the February packet. Right now, we're pretty high on machines per person in the village, but we are a small residential community and a more tourism-focused historic downtown with lots of machines, so it's not unusual that we would have such a high one per capita, but interested to hear the thoughts of all of you and see where we want to take the discussion.
Well, did I read it wrong then? The one Shell station has 10. Everyone else is 6 or less. That happened in 2020, which, I was really surprised at the revenue coming in off them. But I don't know how that happened because it indicated that there was a minimum or a maximum of 6
Truck stops get
machines.
more.
Is that, I'm sorry?
Truck stops get more.
Yeah.
10.
So it's
So,
6
okay.
for like bars and things, and I think
was
it's
thinking
10
maybe
for
it
a
was
truck
state
stop.
requirement then, and not us that put that in there. But I maybe read that wrong.
And it's a state maximum.
State maximum for like bars and things like that.
Or
State
6.
maximum for truck stop is
Okay.
10, I think.
All right, then I did read that wrong. So, okay.
And if we wanted to, we could put in a restriction of, let's say, we feel like maybe we only want each establishment to have 4. We don't have to let everybody have 6 if we want
Right.
to sort of right size it. And a lot of communities choose to use square footage as a
Yeah.
determiner for how many
Right.
games an establishment is allowed. If you have a larger one, you get more. If a smaller one, less. So,
That's where I am. That's my biggest concern is how many machines in any given area. I want it to make sense for the space. So instead of just,
That it's,
how many machines do you want? Give you all the machines, right? I want it to be, guidelines based on square footage would be my big preference is that. And then do we have something about like the noise? So I know most establishments in town keep the volume off of all of them anyway, but is that something that we could do as well? Like just, keep nobody needs to hear bells and whistles all the
Right.
time while they're having
while they're
dinner.
eating dinner.
Lance, do you know if that's a restriction we could implement?
It is. I've seen restrictions where the noise from the machines is limited to that area.
So
you
if they
can't
have
hear
a-
them outside,
Right.
so if it's at a restaurant, if you're sitting
Yeah.
not in the gaming area, you shouldn't be able to hear the sounds from the machines.
So the
See,
places in town that we
That's a
have,
vibe.
that's a closed off area, or like Cobb's has that room, you really can't hear anything outside that room. But the ones that we own, that are only roped off,
Like
it's pretty much volume has to be
dimensions or-
off. Gotcha. Right?
Well, or at least not able. I mean, you guys.
Well, it's a rope and there's a table right next to it,
Yeah.
that's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's what I've seen is not so much that the volume can't be on, but that you cannot
Hear it.
cannot discern it from outside the gaming area.
Okay.
Was the penny push something we can discuss here?
Yeah, we can discuss that. So there was this ability to do this penny per push tax, but the window of opportunity for that closed, and the state has now eliminated that as a possibility. So if it wasn't enacted by sometime last year, you're no longer able to do it. So
I think it was November 1st was
Okay.
a weird statutory deadline created. It's really
Like
strange.
random
And
Yeah.
they only gave everyone like a week.
yeah.
Okay.
Very long.
I think if we go back up to bigger, issues of starting out big and then narrowing down into some of these other smaller details, which are as important, but, we're really looking at, are we in favor of opening up the opportunity to convenience stores and gas stations? And right now, the way that they're phrasing it is that the only way that either under the state or our ordinance, I'm not sure which, is that they have to have a beverage alcohol consumption on premises to be able to do that. So
They would need that under state law.
Yeah.
under state
It's
law,
not ours.
we
Right.
can't do that. Okay. So I think it's not just J that we'd be opening it up to, and the shell, it's to anything that's a convenience store. I don't know how many other stores that would be opened up to, and then we'd have to say to them, no, because everybody's going to jump on, I think. When you look at the amount of income that they're getting from this, so it's going to be, you know, we look at however many we've got right now, 102, it could easily double. And do we want that, do we want to open it up to that much more? And where do we get to the point where it's just, everything is so oversaturated?
Do we have a number of how many it would affect if we did that?
Number of what?
Businesses, that establishments that could
could take
seek this
advantage of
out, yeah.
Oh, they could add it? Well,
Mhm.
we've got the gas station at 68 and 72 there. We've got the gas station there. There's a convenience store next to, in that strip mall by the Dominick's, there's a convenience store over there. I think that would be the only three.
There's another gas station on 68.
So
There's a
I,
Sitco. I'm sorry.
25.
On 25.
25, yeah.
so if,
Circle K.
So like
Yeah.
4.
I think there's 3 to 4, and if there was interest in opening it up to that, you know, you could do a minimum restriction of a certain square footage.
Mhm.
So you would effectively rule out any of the smaller convenience stores that realistically couldn't fit it because they only can really fit the person inside the store and a few snacks.
Mhm.
Two snacks.
And a few snacks. 2 snacks. Or in addition, you could also limit it to those with a fuel station, so it wouldn't be a standalone convenience store
Mm.
Mhm.
in a strip mall or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
On a development that would happen along 72, which is likely they're going to want to add it on Terrace as well, the frontage there. So that would be another potential addition. You know, one thing I was wondering about was this is just really a housekeeping item, but we have an ordinance that restricted the number of licenses that we were initially going to issue. We long surpassed that.
So
And
the-
so it's either repeal it or amend it.
Well,
And-
that's what we do every time somebody
Yeah.
else wants
Yeah.
to do
Well,
it. That's the
but
They have to
design
come
of it
before
is to
us.
have a limited amount so that they have to come to us every time and we have to
Yeah.
discuss it.
That's the,
That's the whole theory behind it.
right.
Okay, as long as it is.
It used to be that there were an X number of licenses, and then it was up to the chief of
At
police
13.
to decide whether and who should get them or not.
Right.
Which we didn't think that was a very good idea at the time. And you don't want to do that, chief?
No, there's no comment or anything.
Yeah, it's not about you. So that we could set some standards, and it wasn't so arbitrary.
Yeah.
There was the appearance that it was a little bit more arbitrary.
When we first put it together, it was with a set number, the number of licenses that were
Mhm.
initially going to be offered, and I don't know if we ever took that off the books, but we can look at that and see if it's.
So going back to Kathleen's question, I feel like I would be okay with expanding it if we had things like the square footage requirement and you have to sell gas and things like that. Like, once again, we don't want it to become the basis of the business. You know, it's not, we want the base of the business to be something else and supplemented by gaming. But kind of going down that rabbit hole, just the liquor license class and all those things that we were discussing may not fit, right? It may not allow it to work for every place, you know, because looking at the liquor license, it's you still have to abide by, you know, serving hours and things like that, and we've got the, you know, the like inventory and requirements on what is the percentage is devoted to sale and consumption of beer and wine and things like that. So I just want to make sure that if we start, I'm not opposed to the concept, but then we've got to actually make sure that the license works to allow for it to even happen, you know? I don't know if that made any sense at all.
Because I'm like,
Right. I was like, I have no idea what you're saying to me right now. I just, it's, I'm looking at some of the rules in the B5 license, and it's, I don't know if we put that license on a business, does it even really allow for gaming? Like, does it really help to push gaming forward there? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few challenges like the needing 35,000 in inventory that's not gas, not alcohol,
Right.
not automotive things. I think there's things that they can figure out. If they really want one, they could have an expensive item and up their inventory and get around it. But yeah, there are challenges that they'd have to like jump through these requirements, but I think that they're probably able to.
Yeah, that's just,
And who's going to, and how is it going to be enforced? Once
Right.
it's in place,
Yeah,
it's a constant,
like you'd have to check inventory to see if they have $35,000 worth of inventory still, or if
Yeah.
they just bulked up inventory and then didn't anymore. Is it just like an annual report that they submit, or? But yeah, who's going to manage that?
So I think in that case, the people that have these licenses, they're incentivized to comply, because if they don't, they're subject to having it all taken away. So the one that we're looking at now, that was created specifically for the applicant, and he did not express any difficulty meeting the expectations of what was written in the ordinance. But as to how it would be enforced, it's like all of our other ordinances on the books. Like, we either have a suspicion and then we inspect, or we get a complaint and then we go in, or like liquor, we do annual compliance checks. Like, all of these tools are at our disposal to ensure that people are operating within the guidelines. But like I said, there's a heavy incentive to comply, because if you don't, your financial.
Yeah, you don't want to lose the gaming machines, so.
Right, especially if, in this case, you work so hard to get them.
Right.
Well, it seems like we have the liquor licenses, which get renewed every year. Do these ones get renewed every year? And who reviews them?
Can you opine on that, Catherine?
Yeah, they're at the same renewal period with the liquor license. It was July 1st every year, so the gaming has to be renewed at that time. Now we just moved it to a calendar year, but
They're tied to the liquor license.
But is there any reason that we would ever not renew a or not renew a gaming license?
there
No,
hasn't
or
been.
a liquor license, really, because it's a property right. You would never just say, oh, we're not going to do it. You'd have to have a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless they receive violations because a minor was at the
Right.
machines and they keep getting violations, then you could probably pull it.
Sure, with a hearing, yeah.
All right.
The state has the power to pull a license over the municipality, don't?
Sure, you have to have both. The state does records checks and so forth, but any local regulations that we put in are
Got
the
it.
locals. You as liquor commissioner is the job to enforce. But there are state requirements, so, and the state goes through, they have agents, usually they're retired police officers that work for the gaming board, and occasionally you get calls from them making sure they know what our rules are. But they go through them, so if they see 7 machines, it's like, hey, and it's not a truck stop, so, they'll write them up right away. They have to have the appropriate documents, the records for keeping. They have to have however their setup is. They can't change it, and they do spot check. They come through.
Yeah. So I think in lieu of, is anybody else concerned about the number of video games that we have and how much it's in our community and in our businesses in the community?
I think we are an entertainment
Yeah.
area, and we are a small town. So I guess back in January, February, I had some concerns about it, but at the end of the day, it's up to the business owners and it's up to the residents, it's up to the people who come into this town to be responsible for their own actions. I do feel like, you know, I don't want everybody to get 6 machines. I don't want them blocking doorways. I don't want them out in the middle of the floors. You know, I'd like to see it, you know, an appropriate number.
Yeah.
I guess that's.
So Andy had put out a question out on Facebook, which I copied and I shared, and I asked for other feedback from my personal account on Facebook. And I think it would make sense in this case, and you guys are welcome to disagree, to even put out a survey in the next newsletter email that goes out, to see if, you know, to give them a little background of, you know, how much we've got, how many gaming terminals would, you know, would this be a good thing, a bad thing, in your eyes, to expand it into these other areas? I do like the square footage idea, because people are going to try and jam in as much as they possibly can. It doesn't make sense. Like, I'm concerned about Jay having 6 terminals, because that's 6 people in 6 different cars, and doesn't even have that many parking spots. You know, for the rest of the convenience store and everything else, if they were to be, you know, fully utilized. So.
Well, that yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But that would, of course, be his responsibility to try and figure out. I mean, if he's going to dedicate whatever parking facility he has to gaming customers in lieu of shopping customers, and that's going to be business he's going to have to balance. So, but
I don't think that's much different than having the Subway there, though. Like, you had families, multiple families in there eating at the same time, too.
But
Yeah.
were you
Just
suggesting,
car-wise.
like, asking the public what they think? Well,
You know, I think there's
do
some
that.
people that, I mean, there's businesses that are absolutely like for it, and then there's residents that may not feel like there's plenty here. I mean,
Right.
and I know they were elected, we were elected or appointed
Make those
to
decisions.
help make those decisions, but it's
Well, my thought is that it's already here, so to ask the public what their opinion is on it is probably just gonna, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Right, yeah.
You run the risk of just opening up a can of worms, because there are gonna be people who are gonna be dead set against it no matter what. And then there are others who are gonna be in favor of it, more the better. And so what I fear is if you give everyone a voice like that, you
Well,
may end up
you would
angering
think-
some people if they don't get what they're looking for.
we may anger people as well.
Well,
I mean,
true.
we're not going to ever make everybody
No,
happy.
exactly.
But what we need to do is try and make the majority happy, and
Right, but my thought is that we have to consider that choice comes from the power of the vote. That's all I'm saying is, and if somebody, takes a position that's counter to what a trustee has decided, then the next go around they'll vote for someone else. That's my
so
thought.
be it.
Okay.
Right, and
So we have 5
minutes.
minutes left. What kind of decisions do you have to make tonight?
So I'm just looking for direction on, I mean, it sounds like we have at least 2 people who are interested in doing a square footage requirement. So for each, we'll look at other communities to see what they've done. For each X amount of square foot, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to get 6, you have to be a certain size. Is everybody pretty much in favor of?
I'm okay with that, but how does that
Yeah.
affect the businesses we already have?
Well, it would be prospective, it would be looking back.
Grandfathered in?
Yeah.
I mean, Lance, if you
Just
can
moving
use-
forward.
Yeah, I have no expectation that people are going to give up machines they already have. It's going forward. But if they give up a license, then they don't get it back.
Right. Part of the original bringing it in.
And
It
any
was-
new
it
license
was
in that location. would be
Acreage for
subject
truck
to
stops.
Right.
Right.
It
no,
wasn't
that
for
is true.
inside, it wasn't for inside the buildings.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
double check, but
Check.
assuming it's not already there, we will move forward with making a recommendation that you can vote for or against, and then we'll incorporate something on the sound, if there's general consensus on the sound, that shouldn't be louder than the space that it occupies.
Wish you had a jackpot.
And then, I also just wanted to mention that we do have one more application pending, which is for the Speedway, the new truck stop on 72.
They don't have one? They don't have it?
They do not have it yet, but they are ready to go. And then the other thing that I just wanted direction on was if we are going to extend it to convenience stores or not, and if so, would we then require it to be a fueling station?
So we can add that in. We could say you can only be, have them if you are a gas station. Is that what we're saying?
Fueling station.
Well, we could do that now, but one thing I would just throw out there is that there are some grocery stores that have them. One being Angelo Caputo's on Randall Road in St. Charles. They've got a little gaming parlor inside the store, cordoned off, and I don't know what sort of effect it's had. If we wanted to bring in, or if we hope to bring in a grocery store eventually in the River Valley Shopping Center, that may be a component of negotiation. So just to let you know.
I think I would rather limit it to if you have, it's like, what we're trying to do is accommodate gas stations that don't qualify as truck stops, as opposed to just convenience stores, grocery stores, everybody. Like, we do have so many, right? That if you would like to play, drive 3 blocks, head to a bar, grab a drink.
Yeah.
To me, I'd be fine with the gas station requirement.
Of course, that, we can tie
But the
it
gas
into
station
the
needs to
class.
have a serving license.
Right. I mean, they still have to qualify based on
Right.
all of the other guidelines, but it's not just open to convenience stores.
You have to meet the state.
I'm fine.
You have to meet the state.
No matter what.
So we
Right.
don't have
State
those
minimum is
Mariano's.
non-negotiable.
Right.
Right.
Is it the same license that like a Mariano's would need, or is it different?
It would be different.
Okay.
So if we were to move forward with the convenience store with the fuel, are we okay with having a minimum square footage so that we eliminate some of the smaller ones that really wouldn't be realistic to accommodate it?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Okay. Then I think that's pretty good for now. We can come back with that probably for the July meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, that'll take us to public comment then on non-agenda items. Is there anybody who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, I'll call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. All right, we'll take a couple of minutes before the start of our, I don't know which clock is right, is that 5:59?
Yeah.
It is 5:59.
Yeah, 5:59.
Right on, right on.